Your son, he's gone. He was weak and foolish, like his father. So I destroyed him.
Can you please stop bothering my kid?
Sorry.
Arthur, I have some bad news for you. This is the last time we'll be meeting.
You don't listen, do you? You just ask the same questions every week. How's your job? Are you having any negative thoughts? All I have are negative thoughts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Weak and Foolish Movie Podcast. My name is Mike Tang, and with me is
Job Ang.
For those of you tuning in for the first time, each of our podcast episodes begins with a non-spoiler section of the movie where we discuss and describe our thoughts on the film without revealing any specific plot details. This section is then followed by a spoiler discussion where we delve into all aspects of the film. In this episode, we will be discussing the latest comic book adaptation, Joker, by director Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix. So the premise of this movie was intriguing from when it was first announced. A relatively low-budget, R-rated, standalone comic book adaptation of the Joker set in the real world, inspired by Martin Scorsese's Driver and King of Comedy, with an Oscar-winning actor cast in the title role. So there's so much about this concept, so much about the concept of this film that's so exciting. With the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I know there's probably been a lot of temptation from studios to try to follow that formula. So the fact that Warner Brothers decided to go against the grain and produce this type of film, I think kind of sent shockwaves around the industry and around film fans.
Yeah.
Joker debuted at the Venice International Film Festival back in August this year, where it was reported to have received an 8-minute standing ovation.
Wow.
And it won the Golden Lion Award. So the hype of the movies went off the charts, to say the least. But then the critic reviews came out, which dampened the film festival response. Some of these critics were labeling the film as being dangerous, and others claimed it lacked substance. And right now on Rotten Tomatoes, Joker holds a 68%, which is less than stellar given the earlier reactions.
Wow.
But then after the film's release, the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is currently at a 91%. So that's a huge discrepancy from the critics. It's also going nuts at the box office. It pulled in $500 million within the first 2 weeks of release. This is all going against a budget somewhere between 55 to 70 million. So they're swimming in cash right now. So it seems like this is one of those movies where the critics and the audiences don't really see eye to eye. And my question to you, Job, is where do you fall on the spectrum?
Yeah, I mean, I've been feeling this way for a little while now. That critical, I feel like I'm losing touch with what the critics generally enjoy. I feel like I can't really trust what Rotten Tomatoes tells me, and that's been brewing in my brain for a while now, and this is yet another reason why. Let me just not belabor this anymore. I thought this was a great film. I really did. It was a masterpiece, I thought. It was a work of art. I love that it's shot from a really grimy perspective. It's from the seedy underbelly of Gotham City. And it could have, and I mean, it shows us just how realistic something like the concept of a supervillain like Joker is, based on the kind of setting that he emerged from, if that makes sense. It has a lot of interesting things to say about society's role in creating a villain, in making a man or woman the way they are, and touching a little bit on the critical reaction of how this movie is dangerous or problematic. which I think Peter Soretta from Slash Film started that brigade. He was the one I saw who tweeted the reaction like, "This is a great film, but it could be potentially dangerous for the wrong audience." At first, I dismissed it and saying, "Oh, like it couldn't have been that problematic," But after seeing this, I completely can see why some people would come away with that. It does kind of ring true. Some of the people I watched it with were actually visibly disturbed and were like really kind of just unsettled after the movie was done, and we were just kind of standing in the circle discussing it. And even I felt some queasy disgust at what I had just witnessed, but I think that's effective, like this is a villain. This is a movie about a villain, and we can like go into deeper discussions about what kind of films we should be creating, and the kind of characters we should be committing to film, if that makes sense. But if the filmmaker set out to make us feel kind of disgusted or uneasy or unsettled, then they succeeded fantastically. And I think it was masterful in that sense. But yeah, I have more thoughts, but I want to hear kind of what you think.
Oh man, I thought this movie was awesome. I mean, let's just first talk about Joaquin Phoenix, right? That whatever movie he's in, he's gonna bring it.
Yep.
And he is electrifying as the Joker. I'd put him at the very minimum on par with Heath Ledger in his portrayal of the Joker.
That's a take.
I mean, everyone's already talking about Oscars for him. Some things that stood out to me about his performance. This was a very physical performance. He clearly lost a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
He's very lanky. There are scenes where he's dancing and kicking. His figure it looks like what I would think the Joker would look like.
Yep.
He kind of contorts his body into really weird, unnatural positions at some points.
That's right.
Another thing that stood out to me, he's able to laugh and cry at the same time. There was a lot of, like the opening, sorry, no spoilers. He does that throughout.
So close.
He does that throughout the movie. It's like fitting I felt like in terms of acting, it's kind of like fitting a square into a circle-shaped hole. It's supposed to be impossible. But he's able to somehow pull off these insane stunts, right?
Yes.
Laughing and crying at the same time.
Yes.
And you actually feel so much sympathy for this character because of Joaquin Phoenix's complete dedication and immersion into this role.
Yeah.
So I loved his performance. That I think it's very different from Heath Ledger.
Yes.
But it's because the entire movie is dedicated to him and his transformation into the Joker.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very nuanced in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that they're different. They're portraying different versions of the Joker, but
they are.
Like in terms of the quality and caliber of performance, like they're both equal in my eyes.
Yeah, I see that. The approaches to the characterizations of the Jokers in Nolan's films and in this film are different. Ledger's Joker kind of almost feels hyper intelligent and like a mastermind almost. In a way, and this one he's a lot more deranged and crazy, psychotic almost.
Yeah, this
so
one.
It's a whole different approach.
Yeah, the whole approach to this one is mental health and how, like you said, society kind of failed this guy, and how it kind of drove him to the point of madness.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you too about how it's filmed. It's clearly shot on film, right?
It's not.
That grimy.
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah, I looked it up. It was shot on Alexa's.
That's so shocking.
Isn't that
to me.
insane?
When I watched it, I was like, "This is film for sure." It's film. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So the movie it looks so grimy and gritty.
Mm-hmm.
It brings that grimy, gritty look from Taxi Driver to Gotham City, and I think maybe I thought it was filmed because just the lighting, right? Everything was tinted with oranges and blues and greens. I feel like this is the closest we've ever gotten to a Gotham City that's like actually realized. The closest we ever got before this was Batman Begins, and I feel like still that movie doesn't come close to the state that we find Gotham in this movie. There's like so much trash on the streets, graffiti on the walls. Half the lights in the city flicker on and off, and they need to be replaced.
Yes.
There's paint chipped off walls. The walls look worn out. They look like they've been different families have been living in those apartments. It just feels like a city that's suffocating from the inside out.
Yeah, and that's a great way of describing it, suffocating.
Yeah, like I felt the weight of the city like on me, like as I was watching the film. You really feel the weight of the oppression.
Yeah.
And so I actually feel like this is the best portrayal of Gotham City in the movies. This is my favorite portrayal of Gotham City because I feel like this is a city, out of all the Gotham cities that we've seen, this is the one that needs Batman the most.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yep. We should probably stop right now and say this does not exist in the DCEU.
Yeah, it's not connected to Batman v Superman. It's not connected to Man of Steel or anything. This is just a complete standalone film.
Right.
A lot of the negative reviews for the movie, it's claimed that it's a blatant ripoff of Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, except it has no substance and it doesn't really have anything to say.
Oh. What?
Thankfully, I haven't seen Taxi Driver in 20 years, and I haven't seen King of Comedy, so that actually didn't impact my opinion of the movie. I actually do think the movie is trying to say something about mental health.
Yes.
And how the system has failed people who need help and counseling. I mean, just even from the second trailer of the movie, right? They kind of hint at that.
Yeah.
So I feel like the message is clear. There is a message in there, but it's just very simple and it's very basic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that we all know. It's just using that to kind of seed the origin of this supervillain.
Yeah. We don't have to work too hard to find out what they're trying to say. In fact, there's a pretty extended sequence of Arthur. The name of this Joker, his name is Arthur. His social worker telling him, "Look, we don't have any more funding. This is it." And it's this whole like sequence of he feels betrayed. He hates her, but she's also angry because the city has stopped caring about her work in a way. And it's about society. Yeah, it kind of beats us a little over the head. Society is bad and it's cruel, or like it could be good for some people, but bad for the less fortunate, the ones who have mental health problems or are a little less fortunate or poor, Yeah, it's about I think social class, So.
Yeah. On that note, I think that's where the movie kind of faltered for me. I feel like it makes a few clunky mistakes in making the theme a little bit too obvious when it didn't have to be. It was already clear before. It becomes too on the nose. It makes subtext text, and you cringe, when that happens, because it's like, dude, we get it. Okay, we're not like you've clearly, you guys are talented filmmakers. You're able to show it already. You don't need to keep going,
Yeah.
But overall, it's a solid character study with a powerhouse performance. To me, this movie is a lot like The Dark Knight Rises, where a lot of online critics panned it, like universally. Like every film blog that I go to, Collider, /Filmcast, Screen Junkies, they all bash on The Dark Knight Rises. But I feel like all the movie fans that I know really love that film.
Yep.
And I think the one online critic that I go to, Chris Stuckman, he actually liked the Joker movie as well.
There we go.
And he also loved Dark Knight Rises. So I think he's a voice for movie fans and not just critics. He's like the bridge between the two.
Is he going to climb onto a fallen police car and we're all going to rally? Oh, spoilers. I just realized I described some scenes. So if you were listening to this somehow and haven't seen it, I am so sorry.
Climb onto a police car. I was like, wait, is he?
My bad, y'all.
All right, so Before we move on to spoilers,
Yeah.
basically, I think it sounds like we both really enjoyed the film. We think it's awesome, right?
Yes, yeah, I think it's great. I don't think I'll ever see it again, at least not for a while, just because of how uneasy it made me feel. But I thought it was great, and one of the best films of the year, I think.
Definitely. Okay, so let's move on to spoilers. Can't wait to discuss this movie in more detail.
Yes.
No, you're still holding on! Let go!
The first time the name Thomas Wayne was mentioned, I actually thought I misheard it.
Yep.
I thought this was a standalone movie, meaning it's not connected to anything, right? I thought it was just only about the Joker. Oh, okay, it's set in Gotham City. I had no idea that Thomas Wayne was a main character in this movie, and so that was a huge surprise to me.
Yes.
And I love how differently he's portrayed than back in Batman Begins, where he was like a saint.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
This Thomas Wayne is so out of touch with the public. He sides with those Wall Street douchebags who were murdered by the Joker, right? And
That's right.
he just has no idea what the people, how his city is suffering, and the people that he's trying to serve. So I love how the movie also plays with the mythology, right? How Arthur Fleck's mother had an affair with Thomas Wayne, which means potentially...
And that's how he came.
I mean, potentially, he's the Joker is the half-brother of Bruce Wayne. And
yeah.
And I love how we don't know who to trust here, right? Because even though the movie reveals that there's files at Arkham that claims that Arthur Fleck's mother, Penny, was insane, there's a possibility that there could be some truth to it, right? There was an interview with Brett Cullen, the actor who portrays Thomas Wayne. He actually thinks that Thomas Wayne intentionally had Penny Fleck committed to Arkham as a way to bury the affair. So I feel like that's
what I thought.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
It plays to the corruption thing, where he's so corrupt to the point where he would doctor medical files, even because of how powerful he is.
Right. Yeah.
That could be it, but I think she was also kind of crazy.
Yeah, it could be both, right?
It could be both. Yeah.
But I love how the movie doesn't give you answers for that, and it plays with the mythology without without telling us either way. So it kind of allows us to kind of imagine, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, dude, it's making $500 million already. So I'm wondering if we're going to get more of these. I would love to see that explored in the future in another movie.
Yeah.
How
did you feel?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go. I was gonna ask you, like, did you have any other thoughts on Thomas Wayne and that whole thing?
Yeah, we're in sync, man. I was about to ask you how you felt about this version of Thomas Wayne, because he's, Bruce Wayne's father is part of the mythology of Batman. He's the example that Bruce followed in a lot of ways, and he's supposed to be like the inspiration for him and all of these things. And this is kind of a big, huge takedown of that character, which I was not expecting, and also felt a little weird about, just because of how, in my head, Thomas Wayne is the guy in Batman Begins, like you said. It's, he's a good guy, and he's looking out for the city.
He's a philanthropist, he's
a philanthropist.
He's compassionate, and he cares about the people who are struggling. He builds that huge train system, right, to connect the city.
I thought, though, this could have been an interesting thing where we see several times in this film that Arthur Fleck Joker's reality is not his reality, or not actually reality. He imagines a lot of imagined scenarios that I actually found convincing in some ways. Not entirely convincing, but enough where I thought, oh, interesting. I didn't know they would take it in this direction. And then we find out that his imagined ideal realities were not his realities at all.
Are you talking about his neighbor down the hallway?
Yeah, how he hooked up with his neighbor that he found attractive. And then we find out later in the film that none of that happened. They never hooked up. They never had a relationship. She was terrified of him. And I was thinking, could his picture of who Thomas Wayne is be a result of that kind of those like for lack of a better word, hallucinations. Like he just imagines that Thomas Wayne is this monster when, do you know what I mean? It's like a reality distortion sort of thing in his brain.
So you mean that conversation that they have in the bathroom where Thomas Wayne punches him in the face?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you saying that could have been distorted by his interpretation of reality?
Right.
I mean, I didn't consider that, but man, that's because he's an unreliable narrator, protagonist.
That's right. And we're watching this from his perspective.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's compelling to think about. I kind of want Thomas Wayne in reality to be this character that was portrayed. Like, he's this rich guy who's out of touch and he's a total jerk and doesn't really care about people. I kind of like that because this means that Bruce Wayne, when he becomes Batman, perhaps maybe he discovers who his father truly was. He wasn't this heroic figure in his life, and maybe the sins of the father are still in the sins of the son, and Batman still has that darkness in him. He's no different than his father's essentially like a crook, right? He's no different than the people on the streets, the rioters. He just
has more money.
Right, he just has more money, and he uses his power to get his way. So, I kind of like the idea that Batman shares the same darkness as the people he's trying to fight against and also save. Kind of.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's kind of. By the way, when Arthur Fleck goes to, it doesn't say where he's going, right? He's outside this really nice, fancy
I know where
garden.
You're going with this.
He's outside this fancy garden, right? And then he sees his little boy playing there in this fancy swing playground. And I'm like, oh no, is that Bruce Wayne? and they go up to the gate and they meet. And then you see a big house in the background. I'm like, holy crap, Bruce Wayne is in this movie?
Yes.
I love that. Like, that was a huge surprise. I love that. And then
Alfred Pennyworth is a total prick.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's I love these. It's totally subverting the mythology and who we know of these characters, but I feel like it makes sense for this world that they're building. Maybe they're douchebags to, I mean, Arthur Fleck is a big creep during the scene. He's touching. He's putting his hands on Bruce Wayne's face. Of course, Alfred Pennyworth is going to be a little bit standoffish against him.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. By the way, just on the note of the fake girlfriend, I actually knew, I was like, there's no way that they're dating. And here's why.
Yeah.
There's a scene where his mom, Arthur Fleck's mom, is in the hospital, and she's there with Arthur Fleck. And then, she's like resting her head on his shoulder or whatever. She's like, oh, I'm going to go get some coffee. I'm a father of 2 kids. So during that scene, I'm like, where's her daughter? She has a daughter. Like, why would she leave? Why would she leave her daughter to be with this guy? I'm like, this is not real. Like, there's no explanation.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was like, there's no
nice
way.
Catch.
Yeah.
Babysitter, it could be.
I don't know. It's such a huge hassle to get a babysitter just so you can be at a bedside.
It's your boyfriend's mom. She got hospitalized.
I mean,
have some compassion, man.
I mean, I'm just kidding. They just started dating.
Yeah, that's a big tell though. Good catch. I didn't catch that detail.
I feel like I only caught it because I'm a parent. So
yeah.
It's I've been.
Your dad instincts, man.
Yeah. Dude, let's talk about the ending of the movie. That was quite the culmination.
Oh, yeah. Are we skipping ahead to the talk show scene?
I was more thinking about the riots at the end.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
As the Joker is born, so is Batman on the same night.
I didn't catch that.
So basically, you have the Joker. He gets out of his police. He's in a police car because he just murdered the talk show host Robert De Niro, and his car gets rammed, and then the rioters pull him out, and they kind
Oh,
of
right.
They worship him and they celebrate him. Right, he climbs on top of the police car like you alluded to earlier. And then while this is all happening, one of those rioters goes in an alleyway and murders Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne in front of Bruce Wayne. And so Bruce Wayne stands there in front of his dead parents while the Joker rises as the hero for all these, for the people of Gotham. And so I love how it's a reversal of the Batman story, right? Because Batman is the one who creates the Joker, but here it's the Joker who creates Batman. So I feel like they're just doing all these reversals and subversions of the mythology that I thought, you know, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty fantastic, actually.
And I think it just seems fitting that the two of them would be connected through Thomas Wayne. It's really, I feel like it's cool storytelling. It's really cool.
I just thought of a plot twist.
Oh, tell us.
What if so get this. What if Martha was Arthur's mom too? Martha.
So why would Thomas and Martha abandon Arthur?
Because maybe he had mental health issues.
I don't know.
I'm just trying to set it up where one day when Bruce and Arthur are fighting, and he just yells Martha, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we have the same mother."
Oh my gosh! Please don't remind me of that.
Oh wow, you reacted to that as if that movie doesn't exist. Wow, very good stuff.
I was gonna talk about like the murder, right, of these two characters. And how this is the fourth time we're actually seeing them murdered on screen.
I know. It's a lot. It's a bit much.
We saw it in Tim Burton's Batman. We saw it in Batman Begins, Batman v Superman. I thought it would be tiresome, but actually in the context of this movie, it was actually very compelling to revisit. Yeah. But you know, I got to say this, though, about Batman v Superman. We can rip it all we want, but dude, that movie has the best portrayal of the murder of Thomas and Martha Wayne. Like,
sure,
the way Martha Wayne's pearl necklace gets caught in the gun, and then the necklace breaks apart after the trigger's pulled. Like, it's the most beautifully shot like murder scene, I guess.
Wow,
on film of that scene.
That is a good take.
Not on. I'm not saying in cinematic history. I'm just saying of all the portrayals of Thomas and Martha
of the death
Wayne.
of the Waynes. Yeah. I agree with you there. I mean, it's very artfully done, and it's part of kind of an opening montage, which is culminated with Bruce Wayne floating with
that was so
the
weird.
bats. But before this becomes a bashing Batman versus Superman episode, I think you're right. I'm in agreement in that showing that Thomas Wayne and his wife get murdered in the end is actually like victory for Arthur Fleck and / Joker is kind of like how you would expect any hero movie to end, where the enemy or the big bad of the film gets vanquished. But in this instance, it's Thomas freaking Wayne and Martha Wayne who are the big bads.
Yeah.
This whole thing is a complete role reversal, and I think that's bold because of how beloved those characters are. And it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating and unsettling all at once.
I love that take, man. That's an interesting take on it. And I think also like
Thanks,
the murder of Robert De Niro's character, what's his name, Murray, right? The Murray
yes.
Show.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was
like,
shocking.
Yeah, like, you know, when he's talking to Murray on the show, he talks about how people are suffering and people are bad, but then Murray defends the people. He's as blind as Thomas Wayne is, you know, about the people who live in that city. He's like, no, people are good, and so, you know, it's just about the Joker taking out all these bullies. You know, like he was totally bullied by this guy, who you know, ripped on his comedy routine.
Yeah. Is it it's too, well, I'm not counting Jared Leto's Joker, but this is two Jokers now in cinematic history that have really felt like they almost have a point. Heath Ledger's Joker, you're kind of I remember coming away from that movie the first time thinking he almost is right. And of course he's horrific in his actions. Same with this one. It's like he cleared out society's bullies. He's a hero. And you almost come away going like, wow, this almost feels good for him.
Yeah.
But it's also highly problematic that we think that way, right? Because it's not. It's not.
Yeah,
his actions are not justified.
Right. Like there are other ways to take down these people without.
But what other ways, right? Like he has no other way out. He's kind of. This is the card. These are the cards, for lack pun not intended. These are the cards he's been dealt.
Yeah. It's just the movie. Yeah, I like what you said there. Like, but how, right? Like he doesn't have the means to kind of change society and the structure of society. He's just one guy, and he's one guy who's really been beat down by everything. And then it just seems like these rich, powerful people just keep getting more and more powerful, and there's just no way out, unless there's like some kind of revolution, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which we see the beginnings of at the end of this film.
Just on that note, this is not just a Joker and Batman origin story, but also a Gotham City origin story. I was talking to my friend Paul about this film. He's a huge Batman fan. And
Shout out to Paul.
Yep. He kept wondering what the big deal was that these 3 Wayne Enterprise Wall Street type employees got murdered on the subway. Like, that's Gotham City any day, right? That stuff happens all the time in this fictitious city. But it actually occurred to him at the end of the movie that Gotham City actually becomes the chaotic, mob-driven, corrupt city that we know it to be.
Because of that.
Because of that, right. And that sparked like this descent into darkness. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was an interesting insight too. Like this is a 3-way origin story in this film.
Yeah, that's really interesting too. We see Gotham kind of descending into chaos, but I think, it was almost like the inciting incident was Joker saying he's had enough and murdering those 3 Wall Street douchebags in a way,
Yeah. So, just wondering about your thoughts on this. I read a review on Collider that says the whole thing could have been made up and all in Arthur Fleck's head. This is suggested by at the end, right? It cuts to Arthur at a mental institution, and he's seems to be recounting the events of the movie to another psychologist or social worker, right? And then he says, like, I just thought of something funny, and then she says, what was it about? And he's like, you wouldn't get it. What are your thoughts on this interpretation? Did you think about this? Is this an interpretation that came to you when you saw it, or is this completely new? Because I did not read the movie that way. I didn't read that scene that way. So I was like, oh, what?
I didn't read the scene that way. But kind of like what I mentioned earlier, I definitely think some parts of this film are not accurate in terms of quote unquote reality, because he's distorted reality so much in his brain. And we really don't, we do see how kind of mentally insane he is. But we don't really get a feel for how far the dementia, the psychosis goes. So I could see someone watching this film and analyzing it and concluding, this is all in his head. I could definitely see that.
Totally valid interpretation, given what the movie presents. Yeah.
I don't know. This is just from one viewing, but now that I'm thinking about it, the imagined sequences that he has, are they usually lit differently from when things snap back to reality? Is there a visual change?
I didn't notice that. I feel like the movie was consistently lit in the same way.
Okay. There wasn't like a slight warming up of the image or anything like that?
Not from what I could tell. I mean, I wasn't paying
Okay.
attention to that. Like any kind of switch. To me, it seems like the whole movie was pretty consistent. Did you notice something?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it now. I'm particularly thinking about the instances where he's imagining being with the girl who lives down the hall, and I'm thinking of the scene where we find out that it's all false. And I do feel like the lighting when they're together in his mind is a little flatter, a little more consistent, and then once we find out that they're not together, everything's cast in shadow and everything's dark, and it could just be a time of day, it could just be coincidence, but I don't know. That would, I think, on repeat viewings I would be interested. I said I wouldn't watch it again, but now I kind of am curious.
Yeah,
But on repeat viewings to maybe see if there's a difference there, or if I'm just imagining it. What if it's all in my head?
What if you're Arthur Fleck?
Oh, are we actually talking right now?
We've never done this podcast before. Actually, it's all in your head.
Are we even friends?
we imagined this entire last 4 years.
Oh wow. It's all in our head.
I
Anyway.
think, I definitely think this movie is worth going back, definitely to go back and to keep all these things in mind, all these different interpretations and reversals of the mythology, and just to watch it through that lens again. And I think there's a lot in here to really appreciate.
Yeah, I agree.
So earlier I said the message of the movie is pretty simple and it makes a few clunky mistakes. I just want to talk about that for a second. The scene I'm talking about is when the Joker goes on the Murray show and he basically telegraphs the subtext of the movie, right? He tells
Yes.
a knock-knock joke, right? He says, "What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash?" I just thought in a movie that was so well acted and performed and shot.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that was such clunky writing. And they didn't need to, they basically told us the movie in that line. Like, you could have had the same scene but have the Joker be more subliminal about his angst and rage.
Yeah.
Something else. But
Yeah.
It reminded me of Frozen, at the end where one of the sisters, I don't even remember their names because I didn't like that movie, but one of the sisters saves the other sister.
You monster.
And then what's that snowman's name again? Olaf. Yeah, Olaf.
Olaf. Yeah.
Yeah, Olaf's like, oh, it's actually the sister's love that saved her, or something. I was that.
That's for kids, though. That's a kids movie.
Well, let me refer you to Pixar films who don't need. None of the Pixar movies do that. Okay, you got to make movies for all people, not just kids.
Yeah.
I think true art, it's for all people, and maybe not for all people, but true art doesn't need to be so overt,
Yeah, it's like a good joke, right? You shouldn't have to explain a good joke.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Joker. Oh.
Do you have any other thoughts on Joker before we wrap up?
No. I wanna say we're back to our boring, we agree on everything mode, but I agree. That whole sequence where he goes on a rant is, you could have just like stopped the movie right there and shown a scrolling paragraph. It's like, this is a movie about society letting a mentally ill person down
While
and abandoning him
while winking at us.
while winking at us. Also, if you're rich, you suck. That's basically that whole sequence. And that scene was so good at the beginning. Like, it was so tense. We weren't sure what was going to happen. He was so erratic and unpredictable. He kissed that old lady.
Yeah.
And was utterly charming, almost in a kind of psychotic way.
Yeah, right.
And we're like, wow, is he going to kind of become beloved? And is this how like he becomes a hero in a way? Is kind of just charming the masses, because the Joker's kind of got some charm. The character, has kind of got some charm to it. I thought that was where it was going, and then suddenly he he starts screaming, and then going on that diatribe. Which, how in the world did you get that exact word for word? He was like, "This is about society abandoning me," and all that stuff. And then,
right.
Yeah, but what redeemed that scene for me was he pulled his gun and actually shot Murray. I was like, oh, they went there with that, and showed it too.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Not cool. I mean, I'm not saying that was cool. But,
yeah. We get you.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah. So I think it could have been a better written moment leading up to that.
Yes, totally.
But I think maybe at the end with the riots and with Bruce Wayne, all that, I think that it kind of made up for what came before.
It did. It made up for it for sure.
Yeah.
It felt, yeah. In conclusion, that scene I think kind of brought us back to, okay, this film is pretty great.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just, I know the movie makes a very simple point about mental health and about how the system isn't really helping the people as much as it could. I hope people take away from that simple message, like, things need to change. Like, there's a lot that could be changed about our system, and that's just one of the many things. Like, we got to help these people, right? We got to give them the attention that they deserve, and show them love and show them support. Because a lot of these people, like Arthur Fleck, they don't have like a support network around them. They're a lot of times they're maybe left alone or just one other person in their life.
Yeah. I have problems with it drawing the conclusion that it's the wealthy that are the reason why this is happening. I felt like that was kind of a leap, and kind of like, okay, this is the talking point right now politically, right? And so, but in the film itself, they didn't really do much besides like making all the wealthy people that show up like complete a-holes,
Yeah.
But to me, that's not enough. That's a bit of a that's not enough for me to kind of come to that conclusion. I don't think they really earned it.
Yeah.
And
it's a little muddy,
a problematic
right?
thing. It's a little muddied, yeah. And how much of that is because of his mental illness, like we don't know. We don't know. And I think it drew too clear a line that, yep, this is a film about how the wealthy in society are the ones that abandon the mentally ill and the poor because they just are wealthy. And I don't believe that personally, but I also don't believe it in the film. It's not enough to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Good points.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to discuss or talk about? I think.
Do we? Yeah. On a meta level, do we know what Warner Brothers is gonna do after this? Or has this always been kind of a standalone, and we'll see what happens with it sort of situation?
Man, money talks, and they're gonna do something.
Speaking of money, right?
Yeah. I think I would love to see a Batman story, like a Batman year one type story where he's Batman is like maybe the sequel takes place like 20 years later. And it's like when he first becomes Batman. We don't need to see all that Ra's al Ghul stuff. We just need to see him come back to.
Is Matt Reeves is the Batman gonna be that film?
No. So Matt Reeves' Batman
not.
is completely unrelated to this. What if the WB tries to force them to merge?
What if they link them up?
Dude, this $55 to $70 million budgeted movie is gonna make $1 billion.
Yeah, that's a huge return on investment.
Holy crap! Like, we're gonna get so many R-rated like DC movies. We're probably gonna.
Yes, we are.
Okay, I'm guessing they're gonna do Catwoman. Maybe a Catwoman set on these mean streets of Gotham.
Oh,
We're gonna get a Penguin movie, and then maybe they're gonna go through the whole gamut of origin stories for DC villains set in the same world. Like,
and then they're going to
then-
surprise us, and Gal Gadot is going to show up at the end of one of these and be like, "Surprise! It's been part of it all along." It's so confusing. All right, if we take this as a standalone, which, you know what, I thought this film was basically an art house film with a mainstream name attached to it, and I found that super refreshing. But also, like, now, kind of thinking from a general audience perspective, this could be utterly confusing.
yeah,
Wasn't Jared Leto Joker just a couple years ago? And
Yeah. I think
is
maybe
this the same as the Heath Ledger Joker? Like, they have the same green long hair. Like, it starts to get a little
Yeah. Well, this Joker looks more like a clown, and Jared Leto's looks like
True.
a gangbanger. So I think just aesthetically, too, like those movies, Suicide Squad, ton of CGI. I think the visual aesthetics is also very different. I think maybe it's different enough where people are able to distinguish between the two.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
with
fair.
all these cinematic universes and reboots taking place, I think audiences are a little bit more sophisticated to tell the difference now between what's in a universe and what's
True.
not. Like the new Birds of Prey movie, it looks like a sequel to Suicide Squad or like a spin-off of Suicide Squad. So
It is, right?
yeah. Because I mean, Harley Quinn's the same. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess Batman has always been, like, not part of a continuity. I mean, back to the Burton films and then the Nolan films, those are all kind of in their own thing, and people know that.
Yeah.
So I suppose we should believe that people can tell the difference here, too.
Yeah.
I just want to know what Warner Brothers is thinking. Like, do we, like, root for Batman in this universe? Or is Matt Reeves, is it part of the DCU? Is it its own standalone thing? So there's, like, 3 continuity? Yeah. But that's okay. That's up to them to decide, right?
I just can't see Joaquin Phoenix doing like a cinematic universe. So
No.
I feel like they would, I don't know, figure out a way how to do, maybe, I don't know. I know he's interested in revisiting the character. Like he feels like there's more.
Yeah.
To
Is this the
explore.
same is this the same Joker that Scorsese was working on for a while? Is this that same project or story?
I don't think Scorsese's name is on the movie. I'm not sure. But
Right, but he was developing
yeah, they
one.
announced it and they were thinking about Leonardo DiCaprio. At the point when they announced that they were working on this, when it was in development, I think that those are the 2 names that were attached. But
There would have been a lot of yelling in that movie.
yeah. There's no I mean, it wasn't official or anything. They were just like talking about it.
Thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering what the lineage of this film was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, I have a feeling,
Sorry.
we're going to find out soon what their plans are, sooner rather than later, cuz they're just swimming all that cash, they got to make more.
Yeah. God forbid they just kind of take it and develop a new creative idea instead of continuing it,
That is an idea. All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our discussion about Joker. We hope you enjoyed the movie too. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Alrighty, guys. See you later.